So I never thought that I'd be sitting here on camera on my booktube channel talking about my first time. But here we are, and we're going to talk about this together. Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I am doing the My First Time book tag, which is an original tag that was done by my really good friend Monica over at Mooney Reads. You need to go watch her video because it's hysterical. I guess this is a tag that she made years ago, and she uploaded it, and it was so cute watching her re-watch that old video and then re-answer the questions. So like, you need to go check that out if you haven't seen it. Monica is just such a sweetheart. Like, if you don't follow her, like, you're crazy because she's amazing. She talks about a lot. She is much more like sci-fi heavy than I am. I am definitely more on the fantasy side of things. She is very much on the sci-fi side. I adore her. So just go check her out now. And now I'm gonna do her book tag, which is talking about your first time for all things bookish. Some of these, I'm not gonna lie, some of these questions were like, oh, do I even remember this? Like, do I have an answer for this? Like, but this was really fun coming up with these answers. So I'm excited to answer them, and then I'll tag a few of y'all at the end of it because I want to see all about your first time too. I've got my phone here because, you know, I can't do a tag without my phone because I can never remember the actual question. So I have to read them. And the first question is, the first full-length book you remember reading on your own, not like picture books or anything like that. And for me, it's one of two books I'm trying to like really remember. It's either Call of the Wild or White Fang, but it is one of those two. As a kid, I was like obsessed with Jack London. I don't know why. I still really like Jack London books, but like as a kid, I loved Jack London books. Like I really liked, especially like Call of the Wild and White Fang, because I loved that like really cold weather, like Alaskan atmosphere, like sled dogs. Like, I live in Florida, so it was probably like a wishful thinking that we were gonna get some snow, because I remember at one point, bless me, as a small child, I wanted to participate in the Iditarod, which if you don't know, which I feel like most people don't, the Iditarod is like this massive dog sled race that takes place like in Alaska and Canada every year. Like, I wanted to do that. Where am I gonna get sled dogs? I live in Florida, but no matter. That was my weird obsession as a child, was sledding and like sled dogs. Like, I don't know. But yes, I really like either Call of the Wild or White Fang were probably my first like of those books that I read that weren't like picture books. The next question is the first series you remember finishing, and that's going to be Harry Potter. I vividly remember reading those books. I started reading them like about when they came out originally. I'm old, sorry, but I loved the Harry Potter books and I read them, and I remember waiting like midnight release parties when that was a thing for books. Like, you would go and like buy the book at midnight. So that's what I did. So that's the first where I like remember like finishing a series. The next one is, what is the first book to movie adaptation that you remember watching because it was a book to movie adaptation? And that's also, I'm pretty sure, Harry Potter. Because I remember being super excited that it was getting a movie. Because like I could finally watch these characters that I've been reading for so long on the big screen. And like I was just really excited when these movies started coming out. So that's the first one that I remember it being like, I know this was a book first that I have read, and now I am excited for it to be a movie. The next one is, who is your first bookish crush? And honestly, I don't super remember, but I kind of like racked my brain, and all that I could come up with was Peeta from the Hunger Games. Like, I just remember adoring him when I read it. Like, I was totally always Team Peeta. Like, Gale is trash. Like, I was not a Gale fan. I was a PETA girl, and like he was just so like sweet, and like he was that like really sweet sacrificing character, and I just adored him. The next question is, who was your first bookish friend? And a lot of my friends don't read. They never really have. Going back, all I can really think of is my friend Amanda, who I have been friends with since like kindergarten. She also was a reader. I don't think she's as an avid reader as like I am now, but I remember her, like she read the Harry Potter books and like the Twilight books and like all the Hunger Games, like that stuff. So she was the first person that I remember being able to talk about books with. So we're gonna go with that. The next one is, what is the first adult book that you remember reading that was not for school? And this is another Jack London book, and that is The Seawolf, which is one of, I guess, his lesser known books. I don't see many people talking about it, but it's a shorter standalone like classic, and I absolutely love it. It is about this man who's like more of like a kind of upper class guy, and he's on this boat, and the boat capsizes and everyone dies pretty much, and he is picked up by this passing whaling ship, and he's super thankful to be rescued by these whalers, but they don't like let him off the boat. They don't like, you know, detour to take him back. They basically assimilate him as part of the crew until they can like get to land and like let him off. So basically he kind of has to become this whaler and like learn their way of life, and you get to know the captain, and he is a really, really cool character, the captain of this whaling ship. And I really enjoyed this book. So if you're looking for like an easier to read classic, I think that Jack London is a great author to pick up, especially this book, because it's a pretty quick read. The next question is, who was your first like character role model? And probably Hermione. I know that like the Harry Potter books now are not something, we're not talking about that. But when I was a kid, I remember reading about Hermione and just being like blown away, because it's like you can be smart and all these other things. Like I mean, let's be real, Hermione is the hero of the whole series. Like, she's the hero, not Harry. Like she's the one that did the damn thing, okay? They wouldn't have done nothing without Hermione. And she's smart, she's a badass, and she is beautiful and like not a conventional way, but she's not like other girls. Like she was just a really well written character, and I saw so much of me in her, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, that's cool, seeing somebody like me in a book. Like, I liked it. All right, this next question is, who was the first author who truly inspired you? And preface this, we're talking about back then, okay? Before we knew things that we know now. Okay, J.K. Rowling. Now, I'll preface that with, we're talking about then, not now. Now is different, okay? But back then, all I really knew about J.K. Rowling was her story. How she wrote the first book when she was like super broke and no one wanted to publish her. And like she wrote it as a single mom, like just this inspirational story. And this is the first time that I remember hearing like stories about authors other than just they wrote this book. Like it's the first time I remember like the author becoming famous, I guess, and like world renowned, because most of the time it was just like, oh, they wrote these books and the books are why they're popular. But with her backstory was really inspiring, you know, as this single mom who was writing on napkins and writing on the chain and like, you know, couldn't afford, you know, was living on food stamps. Like that aspect of the story where it's like she overcame her struggles as a single mom. Like I remember that being super inspiring at the time. And that aspect of the story is still pretty inspiring if we want to be honest about it. The next question is the first book you remember being like inspirational or moving or touching. And I had a really hard time coming up with this one. So the first one that I can remember that like made me cry was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. And I wanted to throw that book out the car because I was reading it in the car on my way to Pennsylvania for like a road trip with family. And I just remember crying and like I was so upset. But then like, I don't know, like, is that what this is talking about? I also really remember feeling very moved by A Tale of Two Cities, which I read not for school because I used to read a ton of classics. Like I used to be a classics reader like you wouldn't believe. So it's kind of weird. I'm really not anymore, but I still love them. I remember being really, really impressed and like touched by A Tale of Two Cities. I just really loved the story and it resonated with me so much. I would need to reread it now because it's been a very long time, but there's like specific scenes that I remember that were just awe-inspiring. So probably one of those two for this. And the next question is, what is the first YA book that you read? And I don't know if we're counting Harry Potter as YA. I think it's more middle grade, at least the beginning few books, right? Yeah. I don't know. If we count it, then Harry Potter. And if not, then The Hunger Games for sure. I was super into The Hunger Games when they started coming out. I absolutely loved them. They will always hold like a nostalgic place in my heart for sure. And then the last question is the first ebook you remember reading. And I remember making my husband, who was not my husband at the time, but he was my boyfriend at the time, but he's now my husband. I made him buy me a Barnes & Noble Nook for I think either my birthday or Christmas one year. And I was so excited. Like I wanted this so bad. Like this is before like e-readers were like huge. Like everyone has a Kindle now and it's like, what? No big deal. I wanted the Barnes & Noble Nook. Don't know why. I to this day cannot tell you why that is specifically what I wanted. But I remember him getting me that, and then I remember reading The Hunger Games on it. And then a ton of other books. But definitely The Hunger Games on my Barnes & Noble Nook. Alright, well this first time book tag was a lot less painful than I thought it would be. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun kind of like thinking of some answers for these questions because man, it's like looking back, you're like, ooh, I was so young. Like, you're trying to remember. But I had a lot of fun. I would love to see your answers to it. I'm going to tag Alan at the Library of Alexandria, Jessie May, if you want to do this. I think that would be really fun. Abby Salter, Vish, and yeah, if you want to do this, do it. I would love to see it. I'll leave Monica's full video below. And thanks for hanging out with me. I will see you next time. Bye.